Okay, so today I discovered a new game that absolutely blew my socks off. I want to talk about this game called Returnal, and I previously made a video on how soulsborne games essentially changed my perspective on story mode, single player type games. And I think, this game only emphasizes what I said in that previous video. Now, I probably went through the same kind of progression a lot of you soulsborne players who are watching this went through as well, thinking it was too hard of a game, and then, actually like digging into the game, realizing it is too hard, and then doing that long enough to where you're like, this game is actually really fun. Hopefully I sold that well for all you guys who've never played. But I guess if you're watching this video, most likely you clicked on it because you saw Soulsborne. And I've played many games that are Soulsborne. Essentially that's just a genre of games that are typically really difficult, more gameplay oriented. A lot even go as far as to copy the same mechanics that Soulsborne or actual Souls games use. But in my opinion, the most poignant part of defining a Soulsborne game is it difficult yet rewarding? And is it very much gameplay intensive? Returnal checks all three of those boxes, and it kind of leans a little bit high on the difficulty, but that shouldn't scare away anybody who's played a Dark Souls game. Now, to give you a little bit of context on what Returnal is, essentially, I think it's as close to a Soulsborne as you can get, aside taking away and shedding away from the actual mechanics of a Soulsborne game, and the fact that it's extremely difficult, brutal. You really have to learn NPC, boss movements, enemy movements well, and kind of how you learn is by dying and getting frustrated and going through that whole process all over again. It's a third-person shooter that's sci-fi oriented. It's got a lot of big bright lights to it, and you're going to be just kind of in awe a lot of the game, but you're also going to be smashing your controller. I think what makes this game so amazing is the fact that it's brutal in that effect. And within the title, the concept of the game is you go through levels like you normally would, but you get one opportunity. So if you die, your progress starts all the way back over and you have nothing essentially. It would be like if you play anything in Dark Souls, any of the Souls games, but when you go back to the bonfire, you lose more than just the echoes, wherever currency you have in the game. You can lose your weapons as well. But the iteration is the map you come back onto, the map you get revived to, is altered. So generally it has all the same concepts, the same rooms, it's just kind of shifted in different ways. It'd be like if, let's say you play Bloodborne, Central Yharnam was in, the Nightmare of Mensis. That's probably not a great reference, but that kind of like jumbled up. Or if you took Central Yharnam and just kind of flipped it all around, it's still Central Yharnam, yet it's completely different how it flows. That's how Returnal is. So you go through the same enemies, you learn the same movement paths, it's just all in a different order every time you, start a new run, as they call it. Just like a Soulsborne game, there's a lot of information thrown at you early. They do a pretty good job at getting you kind of up to speed on it, but that first, I'd say, hour or so, or maybe even longer, you're grinding through a lot, you're dying a lot, and you're getting frustrated a lot. Now, once again, I'm going to emphasize that probably doesn't scare a lot of you away who are watching this video. Needless to say, what I wanted to talk about through it is the difficulty in games, why I think that is so paramount to having a great experience. I think we're seeing a lot more accessibility features, things that make the game easy and allow you to really kind of set into that story itself. While there is another path that is also emerging where it's like minimal cutscene, get into the gameplay, and that's it. What's really going to be interesting down the road is, are you going to see more games like Returnal that I think could take a lot of the difficulty aspects of a Soulsborne game and apply it to their own unique style, where it's a lot of gameplay inducive? Or are we going to see more games like The Last of Us, God of War Ragnarok, where, while still a fun combat system, they equally have a great story? Not to say Returnal's story isn't good, but it's not, it's not pushed in your face like the other games. I can see two sides. While you've seen the kind of late uprise in Soulsborne popularity, specifically with Elden Ring, I think you're starting to see even more games kind of offshoot off that. Or are we going to see something like more God of War derivatives, so they can essentially be turned into an entire IP, turned into movies, TV shows, books, merch? That would be really interesting. I can guarantee you would see a lot more Kratos on t-shirts than you would see a tarnished shirt. I guess this was kind of like a talk about how games are going and where they're going to go from there using Returnal, because it's not a Soulsborne game, but it still has a lot of elements. It has its own identity. I'd be really curious what the kind of numbers are that it did. It's a PlayStation 5 exclusive title, so it's not going to do as great as a lot of games, but still, barring all the factors of the COVID, the pandemic, everything that made releasing a PS5 exclusive 2 years ago terrible, what was the success measure of that? And will we be seeing it? I would also like to see kind of game time comparison between a Soulsborne player or a person who plays Returnal versus someone who's playing, I don't know, like a Red Dead Redemption or just a very story intensive game. All questions to ask, maybe good for another video, but to wrap things up, if you like boss battles, if you like very intense gameplay, fast-paced gameplay that's extremely rewarding, go ahead and play Returnal and come back to me and comment on this with pure excitement like I am. I've only made it through the first biome, so I'm really new onto it. It's going to take me a while, but man, am I excited to keep going at it. Otherwise, from that, guys, if you have any other suggestions, I know there's a lot of games that are like Soulsborne games that necessarily have that difficulty and sense of progression through the gameplay. I know there's a lot nowadays. Maybe you could suggest that to me. I'd be really interested to see what you kind of have in store. I don't know, otherwise from that, I don't know, I'm trying to post things I really enjoy content wise, and I really enjoy playing this game, so I just thought I'd make a little bit of a video on it. That pretty much wraps it up. Like I said, comment down below if you play this game, if you play Soulsborne games, what kind of, what's your attitude towards the shifting progression or the shifting needle that is playability of games, I guess. I don't know. We're throwing stuff out there. That pretty much wraps up today's video. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.